Now, let us turn to the story of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Bear in mind that a garden is a properly prepared plot of ground. It is not a wasteland. You are preparing this ground called Gethsemane by coming here and studying and doing something about your mind. Spend some time daily in preparing your mind by reading good literature, listening to good music, and entering into conversations that ennoble. We are told in the epistles, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Philippians 4:8. Continuing with our story, as told in the 18th chapter of John, Jesus is in the garden and suddenly a crowd begins to seek him. He is standing there in the dark and he says, "Whom seek ye?" The spokesman called Judas answers and says, "We seek Jesus of Nazareth." A voice answers, "I am he." At this instant, they all fall to the ground. Thousands of them tumbled. That in itself should stop you right there and let you know it is not a physical drama, because no one could be so bold in his claim that he is the one sought, that he could cause thousands who seek him to fall to the ground. But the story tells us they all fell to the ground. Then, when they regained their composure, they asked the same question. Jesus answered, "I have told you that I am he. If therefore ye seek me, let these go their way." John 18:8. Then said Jesus unto him, "That thou dost, do quickly." John 13:27. Judas, who has to do it quickly, goes out and commits suicide. Now to the drama. You are in your garden of Gethsemane, or prepared mind if you can, while you are in a state akin to sleep. Control your attention and not let it wander away from its purpose. If you can do that, you are definitely in the garden. Very few people can sit quietly and not enter a reverie or a state of uncontrolled thinking. When you can restrict the mental action and remain faithful to your watch, not permitting your attention to wander all over the place, but hold it without effort within a limited field of presentation to the state you are contemplating, then you are definitely this disciplined presence in the Garden of Gethsemane. The suicide of Judas is nothing more than changing your concept of self. When you know what you want to be, you have found your Jesus or Savior. When you assume that you are what you want to be, you have died to your former concept of self, that is, Judas committing suicide, and are now living as Jesus. You can become at will detached from the world around you and attached to that what you want to embody within your world. Now that you have found me, now that you have found that which will save you from what you are, let go of that which you are and all that it represents in the world. Become completely detached from it. In other words, go out and commit suicide. You completely die to what you formerly expressed in this world, and you now completely live to that which no one saw as true of you before. You are as though you had died by your own hands, as though you had committed suicide. You took your own life by becoming detached in consciousness from what you formerly kept alive, and you begin to live to that which you have discovered in your garden. You have found your Savior. It is not man falling, not a man betraying another, but you detaching your attention and refocusing your attention in an entirely new direction. From this moment on, you walk as though you were that which you formerly wanted to be. Remaining faithful to your new concept of yourself, you die or committed suicide. No one took your life, you laid down yourself. You must be able to see the relation of this to the death of Moses, where he so completely died that no one could find where he was buried. Refer to the video on Lesson 1, Consciousness is the only reality. You must see the relationship of the death of Judas. He is not a man who betrayed a man called Jesus. The word Judas is praise. It is Judah, to praise, to give thanks, to explode with joy. You do not explode with joy unless you are identified with the ideal you seek and want to embody in this world. When you become identified with the state you contemplate, you cannot suppress your joy. It rises like a fragrant odor described as Jericho in the Old Testament. I'm trying to show you that the ancients told the same story in all the stories of the Bible. All that they are trying to tell us is how to become that which we want to be. And they imply in every story that we do not need the assistance of another. You do not need another to become now what you really want to be. Now we turn to a strange story in the Old Testament, one that very few priests and rabbis will be bold enough to mention. Here is one who is going to receive the promise as you will now receive it. His name is Jesus. Only the ancients call him Joshua. Jehoshua ben Nun, or Savior, son of the fish, the savior of the great deep. Nun means fish, and fish is the element of the deep, the profound ocean. Jehoshua means Jehovah saves, and Ben means the offspring or son of. So he has called the one who brought the fish age. This story is in the 6th book of the Bible, the book of Joshua. A promise is made to Joshua as it is made to Jesus in the anglicized form in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In the Gospel of John, Jesus says, "All things whatsoever thou hast given me are of thee." John 17:7. And all of mine are thine, and thine are mine. John 17:10. In the Old Testament, in the book of Joshua, it is said in these words, "Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you." Joshua 1:3. It does not matter where it is. Analyze the promise and see if you can accept it literally. It is not physically true, but it is psychologically true. Wherever you can stand in this world mentally, that you can realize. Joshua is haunted by the promise that wherever he can place his foot, the foot is understanding. Wherever the sole of his foot shall tread, that will be given unto him. He wants the most desirable state in the world, the fragrant city, the delightful state called Jericho. He finds himself barred by the impassable walls of Jericho. He is on the outside, as you are now on the outside. You are functioning three-dimensionally, and you cannot seem to reach the fourth-dimensional world, where your present desire is already a concrete objective reality. You cannot seem to reach it because your senses bar you from it. Reason tells you it is impossible. All things round you tell you it is not true. Now, you employ the services of a harlot and a spy. Her name is Rahab. The word Rahab simply means the spirit of the Father. Raise means breath or spirit, and ab the Father. Hence, we find that this harlot is the spirit of the Father, and the Father is man's awareness of being aware, man's I amness, man's consciousness. Your capacity to feel is the great spirit of the Father, and that capacity is Rahab in this story. She has two professions, that of a spy and that of a harlot. The profession of a spy is this: to travel secretly, to travel so quietly that you may not be detected. There is not a single physical spy in this world who can travel so quietly that he will altogether be unseen by others. He may be very wise in concealing his ways, and he may never be truly apprehended, but at every moment of time he runs the risk of being detected. When you are sitting quietly with your thoughts, there is no man in this world so wise that he can look at you and tell you where you are mentally dwelling. I can stand here and place myself in London. Knowing London quite well, I can close my eyes and assume that I am actually standing in London. If I remain within this state long enough, I will be able to surround myself with the environment of London as though it were a solid concrete objective fact. Physically, I am still here, but mentally I am thousands of miles away, and I have made elsewhere here. I do not go there as a spy. I mentally take elsewhere here and then now. You cannot see me dwelling there. So you think I have just gone to sleep and that I am still here in this world, this three-dimensional world that is now San Francisco. As far as I am physically concerned, I am here, but no one can tell me where I am when I enter the moment of meditation. Rahab's next profession was that of a harlot, which is to grant unto men what they ask of her without asking man's right to ask. If she be an absolute harlot, as her name implies, then she possesses all and can grant all that man asks of her. She is there to serve, and not to question man's right to seek what he seeks of her. You have within you the capacity to appropriate a state without knowing the means that will be employed to realize that end, and you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled without having any of the talents that men claim you must possess in order to do so. When you appropriate it in consciousness, you have employed the spy. And because you can embody that state within yourself by actually giving it to yourself, you are the harlot, for the harlot satisfies the man who seeks her. You can satisfy self by appropriating the feeling that you are what you want to be. And this assumption, though false, that is, although reason and the senses deny it, if persisted, will harden into fact. By actually embodying that which you have assumed you are, you have the capacity to become completely satisfied. Unless it becomes a tangible, concrete reality, you will not be satisfied. You will be frustrated. You are told in this story that when Rahab went into the city to conquer it, the command given to her was to enter the heart of the city, the heart of the matter, and the very center of it, and remain there until I come. Do not go from house to house. Do not leave the upper room of the house into which you enter. If you leave the house and there is blood upon your head, it is upon your head. But if you do not leave the house and there be blood, it shall be upon my head. Rahab goes into the house, rises to the upper floor, and there she remains while the walls crumble. That is, we must keep a high mood if we will walk with the highest. In a very veiled manner, the story tells you that when the walls crumbled and Joshua entered, the only one who was saved in the city was the spy and the harlot whose name was Rahab. This story tells you what you can do in this world. You will never lose the capacity to place yourself elsewhere and make it here. You will never lose the ability to give unto yourself what you are bold enough to appropriate as true of self. It has nothing to do with the woman who played the part. The explanation of the crumbling of the wall is simple. You are told he blew upon the trumpet 7 times, and at the 7th blast, the walls crumbled, and he entered victoriously into the state he sought. 7 is a stillness, a rest, the Sabbath. It is a state when man is completely unmoved in his conviction that the thing is. When I assume the feeling of my wish fulfilled and go to sleep, unconcerned, undisturbed, I am at rest mentally. I am keeping the Sabbath, or am blowing the trumpet 7 times. And when I reach that point, the walls crumble, circumstances alter, and remold themselves in harmony with my assumption. As they crumble, I resurrect that which I have appropriated within. The walls, the obstacles, the problems crumble of their own weight if I can reach the point of stillness within me. The man who can fix within his own mind's eye an idea, even though the world would deny it, if he remains faithful to that idea, he will see it manifested. There is all the difference in the world between holding the idea and being held by the idea. Become so dominated by an idea that it haunts the mind as though you were it. Then, regardless of what others may say, you are walking in the direction of your fixed attitude of mind. You are walking in the direction of the idea that dominates the mind. As we told you last night, you have but one gift that is truly yours to give, and that is yourself. There is no other gift. You must press it out of yourself by an appropriation. It is there within you now, for creation is finished. There is nothing to be that is not now. There is nothing to be created, for all things are already yours. They are all finished. Although man may not be able to stand physically upon a state, he can always stand mentally upon any desired state. By standing mentally, I mean you can now, this very moment, close your eyes and visualize a place other than your present one, and assume that you are actually there. You can feel this to be so real that upon opening your eyes, you are amazed to find that you are not physically there. This mental journey into the desired state, with its subsequent feeling of reality, is all that is necessary to bring about its fulfillment. Your dimensionally greater self has ways that the lesser or 3-dimensional you know not of. Furthermore, to the greater you, all means are good, which promote the fulfillment of your assumption. Remain in the mental state defined as your objective until it has the feeling of reality, and all the forces of heaven and earth will rush to aid its embodiment. Your greater self will influence the action and words of all who can be used to aid the production of your fixed mental attitude. If you haven't already, please remember to like and subscribe to join us for part 3.